All right, 10 seconds.
It's really ridiculous. Former Titans left tackle Taylor Lewan, who defended Vrabel since his firing, appeared on Up and Adams with Kay and said he spoke with Rossini at Super Bowl opening night. According to Lewan, Rossini said this wasn't a report, but just a hype.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been waiting, and now it's here. TBSN, the Tony Bruno Sports
All right, opening
Network.
max.
Make some noise! The Tony Bruno Sports Network. Download the app. Tell your friends the game is on. TBSN.
Are you ready? Let's do it. Live from the Tickscape Studios. Let's f***ing go.
Oh, what is up, Tony Bruno Sports Nation? Dave Benz hanging out with Matt Fowler and Jim Kozamore as we get the Monday edition underway. A lot to get to. A lot of stuff went down this weekend, fellas. And I don't know why I'm hearing one of you guys have your speakers on? Because
Not me.
No, I've got my headsets on, bro.
Weird. Are you guys hearing a delay as well?
I am.
Yes, I am.
I am.
Interesting. I don't know where that's coming from. Very annoying, though. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah,
during
but
the
both
break.
of them, yeah, both of mine are.
Yeah, I have no settings different. We did connect to a new Nextcast thing today. So there we go. So Matt, mute your mic for a second and let's see what happens. We're just trying to. We're doing that. We've been out of having to do tech support stuff the last couple of weeks. All right, it's on Matt's end. It's definitely coming on Matt's end. With Matt's mic open. Coz, you're still hearing? Oh, no, Coz is doing a refresh as I'm looking at the live stream. And Coz, go ahead and give us
There we go.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It's gone. It's coming on Matt's end.
Testing 3, 2, 1.
So-
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so we'll just
Alrighty.
we'll just leave Matt's mic closed unless he needs to open it for some reason, and then we'll have to figure that out during the break, Matt. But anyway, a lot to get to today. As you know what, Jim, it's been a tradition in college athletics, right? And not just in college athletics, but you win a big game, you storm the court, and it's often been one of the great visuals, right, to be able to see. And I know growing up and watching Syracuse basketball, there were big games where they would get wins and they'd run out. And, a lot of times it's just good fun, right? And I even think there's a great picture at Moda Center outside the Portland Trailblazers locker room with fans on the court after Portland won their NBA title, and there's actually fans standing on the baskets and on top of the backboard. And, I've often stood at Moda Center and looked at that picture and thought about what a great moment it is. But unfortunately, we've had things go not so well with those court stormings this season in college basketball. Caitlin Clark, she collided with a fan following an Ohio State victory celebration earlier this year when Iowa lost to Ohio State. And then over the weekend, Kyle Filipowski, excuse me, Kyle. They call him Flip for good reason there in Duke. He was hurt as the Wake Forest fans stormed the court after the Demon Deacons beat the 8th-ranked Duke Blue Devils over this weekend. And Coz, have we gotten to a point now where court storming needs to be abolished, or do they need to clearly they need to do something to try to control it, but has the benefit of seeing that great visual and the exuberance of a big win now been outweighed by the potential of people getting hurt?
I think this always comes up as the after effect. No one pre-thinks it through, and this occurs, and now we have to have a really stringent answer to what are now 2 incidents, right? Of all the court stormings that go on, we don't often hear of players or people getting hurt. Remember, it's not just the players who could potentially get hurt, it's the fans who could potentially get hurt. And there are instances where fans run into one another and someone conks their noggin. I think it's an extreme reaction to say, let's cancel them. Let's just do away with them. Let's put ropes around the court and no one can get on them. No one can do anything. I think that those cries will come out from a lot of people who like to, after the fact, make cases for things in extreme fashions. I think there could be another way around it. I like the court storming. I like the jubilation and joy of sport. I like seeing it come out in fandom. I like seeing it come out in players celebrating. I don't have problems with that. I don't like taunting. I like celebrating. So my fear is, Dave, that they will overextend themselves and try to stop everything and really make the court almost cordon it off, block it off, and take that fan element away from everything. So, no, I don't think we're in a position now where we should be eliminating them. I just think we should look at it and try to figure out, is there a way to more safely have court storming?
Yeah, I saw a couple of ideas about maybe you have a countdown clock. Maybe it's, 30 seconds. And listen, it's mostly, I'm not going to say it's 100%, but it's mostly the students at the school, right? And I feel like
there are no professors who are running up there, high-fiving.
Having gone to growing up, and we're going to talk a little bit about Syracuse basketball today because something happened with Syracuse today that I think will bring on a greater topic for us to get into as well on this show.
It better, because I hate Syracuse basketball, so it better give us a better topic, I'll tell you.
Oh man, that is not. I'm not liking that. Here we go. not liking that take at all.
Always hated the orange, I'll tell you. I always hated the orange.
Oh, that's I'm gonna have to dive into that, and I'm curious why that is. But I know going to Syracuse games as a kid. I was not a student at Syracuse. I mean, I did take some credit. I was there, and I worked when I was in college. I did work at the student radio stations there, so I do have ties to the university, but beyond just having grown up there. But I know that other people other than students ran on the court when they had big victories over Georgetown and whatnot. And Matt's got his mic open again. So Matt, you're going to have to keep your mic closed until we figure this out. So Matt, there we go. I don't know what Matt did different today, but we'll get that figured out during a break, hopefully. But Coach, the bottom line is, if it's just the students and they know that the mandate is, hey, it's going to be a delay, and I get that kind of diffuses it, right? Because you just want to, the pop is the cork is coming out of the bottle, and the champagne is flowing, and everybody wants to explode with that energy. So to be like, hey, we're going to wait 30 seconds before you can run out on the court, that's going to be tough to implement, but I think it is possible, especially if the students know that that's kind of how it goes, and maybe they start a countdown clock, and that way everybody's got time to get off the court, and the excitement can build. I think what the problem was with Wake Forest, they ran out on the court before the buzzer actually officially sounded, so the players had no chance to get out of there, and I also know that you got to give the people who are working at the scorer's table, anybody who's seen camera guys who are on the court or still photographers, give them a chance to get out of the way, because getting trampled with equipment because some 19-year-old student wants to run out on a court. There has to be a way to control it, and I think you can find a happy medium. But I agree with you, Coz. I'm a little bit worried that the overreaction is going to be, we've got to get rid of it and just let's take it away because there's too much liability.
I like that. And the countdown clock, for a lot of people, instead of thinking of it as a countdown clock for the fans to storm the court, think of it as a countdown clock for the players to get off the floor. You've got X amount of time. The game is over. Get off the floor. All right? And I don't care what that clock is, if it's 20 seconds, 30 seconds. But part of the charging or rushing of the court is the emotion of game just ended, horn sounds, boom, we're out there celebrating because our guys did it. Hooray for state. Yay. And if you kind of sit back for half a minute and you're watching players congratulate each other and some players cry and all that business, I mean, honestly, you might lose some of that enthusiasm that you want to experience by charging the court.
Agreed.
There's no easy answer.
Agreed. But if you're counting down with the clock, right, and the student section is going, 10, 9, like, I think then it could
I
be
like
cool,
that.
right?
I like where you're going. I like that.
Yeah. The students are counting down with the clock. It could be good, and maybe you're playing. Yeah. Maybe you're playing some music. You're playing,
I like it.
Welcome to the Jungle, or whatever as part of it. I think there could be a good tradition built there, and then it gives everybody time to get out of the way and get it done. And maybe it makes it even more fun. But the bottom line is they got to do something. They've got to do something.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have it on. I think everybody agrees with that. The unabated with absolutely no control. And who's got the accountability? Is it the universities? Is it the NCAA? Is it the venue itself? If somebody was to get trampled and seriously get hurt, who's on the hook for that? So they need to get some clarity, and I think it needs to come from the NCAA because I think it's a bad idea to just have each university put in their own rules into place. I think it needs to be the NCAA needs to mandate it, and I don't know what the punishments are if you run out onto the court in advance of the time when you're allowed to do it, then do you get suspended from school? If you're a student, do you get arrested? Do you get fined? I don't know what the policies would be, but there needs to be something in place. And again, I feel like if it becomes a thing that's embraced by the student body, then I think it could be actually fun. But I am worried that the NCAA is going to say, you know what, it's just too much work. Let's just not do it and do away with it. And then you lose those great scenes. And how many times do you watch Sports Center and you see all the fans going crazy on the court and it looks great and it's great for recruiting and it's great for the overall sales of the product. And again, it's great even on the NBA level. It doesn't happen often, but that picture in Moda Center of the Portland fans on the court after they won the NBA title, because I don't know if that picture was there when you were visiting the Rose Garden, now the Moda Center, but I've looked at that picture many times and thought what a great scene that must have been.
It is. It's a fabulous scene, but boy, I like at least positioning it as, hey, fans get their own countdown to storm the court. I like that. I personally, Dave, would be watching Sportsnet Central, not a program called Sports Center, to see those beautiful highlights of fans storming the court. Of course, in Bay Area college basketball, there'd be like a dozen people who actually walk to the center of court and they hold a study session. Is usually what would happen in Northern California.
Hey, you know what? Actually, I get why you're throwing shade, but the one college that actually probably would do it right is St. Mary's. The St. Mary's Gales, they're fans. They know how to celebrate. That is a relatively small school, but boy, do they have some big seasons, and they get a big win over Gonzaga, who is their arch nemesis, and the fans run out. That could be a good scene. But yeah, Cal, they're going to start a study session.
I will tell you, if you had to rank the Bay Area schools when it comes to court storming and who could do it right, I would say you're absolutely right. St. Mary's, far and away the winner. Great atmospheric games there. I've done a number of games there, and I really love it. I've seen games there. Took my daughter to a game there. It was really phenomenal. They would do it right. I would say USF is second on the list.
I would agree.
Thank you. And then I would throw Cal, Stanford, Santa Clara, and San Jose State and say combined they couldn't equal what St. Mary's would do for a court storming.
Or USF. But yeah, I would say, and out of those other also-rans, I would probably, I just don't think Santa Clara or San Jose State would have enough fans in attendance for it to even happen. You'd have like one person come out, and you'd have like one person come out for San Jose State. That would be it. And same thing for Santa Clara. Yeah. At Stanford, I don't know.
And it's sad. I mean, that's a nice – yeah. They all have nice facilities. They have all had really good programs at some point in their history of sport. But for the most part, there are a lot of colleges out there that just don't have the school spirit that you would see, and it's unfair to maybe compare it to an SEC or a Big Ten school. It's just so funny wherever you are in the country when you watch the evening news and sports, how things are covered. I was last night, I had family and friends over, friends from my college roommate, guy I've known since third grade. They live in the Detroit area. So he's a big Michigan State guy. We flipped on the Detroit evening news, and they have a half-hour sports program. And
KHOU's one out. There
and
I thought I lost you for a second.
Oh,
You're
sorry
back.
about that.
You're back.
All righty. Well, all right. Sorry about that. But regardless, They led with college basketball in the city of Detroit, which is a top 10 market. Whereas if we were back and let's say I was visiting you and we were doing the show in a studio, if Cal and Stanford played, I don't think you'd get anything but and Cal beats Arizona State today as the kicker, as the end story of a sportscast.
That would be the end. That would be it. So the bottom line is college sports, as you know, Coes, are not as big as pro sports, which is weird now because where you are in Franklin, Tennessee, which by the way, I got some good intel on Franklin, Tennessee over the weekend. I was hearing that it is like the place to be in Tennessee. So
it's pretty good. I don't know who you're talking to, but it is. I mean, down the street from me, a family member of the ownership family of an NFL team just moved in down the block from me today. The moving van is actually rolling up to the house right now, and so it's a great place to live with a lot of fun things, and it's just a really cool place to be. So I don't know who you're getting your intel from, but they are spot on.
Yeah, well, but my point with the whole Tennessee thing is, I'm having traveled the country a ton. I'd be willing to bet the college sports are bigger than pro sports. I'm sure there's a ton of Tennessee Titans fans there. I'm not doubting that at all. But at the end of the day, they probably care more about the Tennessee Volunteers than they care about the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of neck and neck. NFL still is the biggest deal that you'll have here. In Nashville proper, it's probably going to be, Nashville and the Nashville area. It's going to be Titans 1, Vols 1A, Vols football 1A. I mean, they are neck and neck, but it's pretty much going to be the Titans. And then as you get closer to Knoxville, which is about a 3-hour drive from Nashville, it would turn and go Vols and then Titans. But you're right. College football here is king. And in some areas, I would even tell you Vols football is number 1, SEC football is number 2, Titans are number 3.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
It's a big deal.
Who are they fans of for the SEC if they're not a Vols fan?
So here you've got a lot of Alabama fans. You got a lot of Auburn fans. You've got a lot of South Carolina fans. You see every football season, you start to see everyone's college flags that are flying in front of their houses. It is really true to their college. They love their schools out here, and they really trumpet their schools. So there's always someone wearing some layer of gear from an SEC school. And so it is fun. A lot of Florida guys. I play pickleball with a guy who was a swimmer at Kentucky. I play pickleball with a guy who was a Florida grad. A lot of SEC. Georgia. You get a lot of Georgia Bulldogs. They've been red hot in football, and all of a sudden they come out of the woodwork. So you get a lot of that stuff.
So I'm curious, is that because we talked this morning on the call, and you've mentioned a few times the combine's coming up and whatever.
Yeah.
Is the mindset of the college fan that they are more likely to be interested in the combine than just your straight NFL fan? Because and where I'm going with that is, you've got a guy you've been watching play for the Vols, or you're an Alabama fan, and you want to see how's my guy doing at the combine? What's his draft status going to be? Whereas me, I'm not really a big college football fan, so I'm not tied to anybody, and it's like, the combine, whatever. It doesn't really move the needle for me. I could care less about watching the combine, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we have 2 all sports stations in Nashville. So the one station that carries the Titans games, they have 2 of their shows who are going to be sending their full crews up to Indianapolis for the combine. So they will be doing their shows live from Indianapolis during the combine. One of their other shows will send one person from the morning show who will be up at the combine. So they have 3 of their day parts having live shows from Indianapolis. That's how big the combine is in Nashville. Now, I know Indianapolis is closer than, say, San Francisco or Las Vegas or Los Angeles, so I understand that, but it's a big deal. And Vols fans are going to be following Vols players. How'd the wide receiver do? Who got injured? How's his 40 time? They will, tomorrow morning when I wake up and they get ready to start the thing, they will say, here are the SEC guys who are going to be working out today at some point. They're going to start talking about the guys from Tennessee who are going to be working out today. Yes, there is a keen interest in what the and what coaches are going to be there. They're going to talk about, what not only college coaches, but what NFL coaches are going to be there or not going to be there. In fact, the guy closest to you, Kyle Shanahan, I don't think he said if he's going to go to the combine or not. Some coaches are not going. So that's an interesting new spin on the combine. But the combine is a big topic of conversation in the South, in your football playing areas of the country.
Well, that is certainly a different way to look at it. I think if you're just a flat NFL fan, and don't really care about the college game, you have a little bit of passing interest in it. I think your interest is probably heightened when you have a high pick and you really want to kind of see how guys are doing. But I'm a Niner fan. They don't have a high first round pick, and they don't necessarily have a glaring need. So I'll see a little bit of news from the combine. Which, by the way, I've got the schedule. You mentioned it starts tomorrow. I'm looking at an NFL press release, and I don't know, maybe this is only the inside look, but they're doing the inside look on Thursday, starting Thursday from Lucas Oil Stadium. They'll have the defensive linemen and the linebackers. And then Friday is the DBs and the tight ends. Saturday, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs. Sunday, offensive linemen.
That's interesting. Maybe I have the dates wrong, but I know that the stations are sending guys starting tomorrow.
Well,
and
I
was
the
just
interviews
watching
and all that. This might just be the physical stuff. The interviews and all that are taking place.
Yeah, and then remember, there are so many different position groups. Everyone says, oh, it's probably only takes a couple of days. No, first you've got the linemen, offensive linemen, then defensive linemen, then you got the cornerbacks, and then you got the receivers, then you got the running backs, then you got the quarterbacks. And you're right, there's a whole series of in-person interviews that go on, the physicals that go on with these guys, and then eventually you get to the actual game playing stuff. But I was watching today on the NFL Network, and they said tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern is going to be programming on your inside guide to the combine. So I had my assumption was, well, if they're doing that tonight, they're getting ready for it tomorrow. So maybe they don't get to the underwear Olympics for a couple of days yet.
You got to do a really, really deep dive.
Oh wait, Matt's back, and you fixed it, Matt. Nice work.
I love it, Matt.
I had some help, but anyway, you got to do a really deep dive to be a really big NFL fan, to get excited for the combine. to me, it's just a little.
And that's why I hate Bay Area sports fans.
But you know what, Matt? You got to get us. You need to get us a combine guest. We do need a combine guest Thursday or Friday. So yeah, I'm looking at the schedule, Coach. I'm looking at the schedule. It is, and it's open to fans. It's free. You do have to register to get a ticket.
It's free.
It is free.
I thought it was $20.
It's shocking. It says to me here that it's free, but you have to register. It says admission is free, but fans must register online by downloading or registering on NFL's One Pass app. You can also go to NFL.
You guys think they're greedy, and you guys say the NFL is greedy, and they're giving fans freedom to the combine.
The second they can start charging fans to go to the combine, they will.
Fans went to media night, and I was there, and there was 20,000 people there that paid $30 to get in. That is
unbelievable.
By my count, I can't do math.
Matt, were the concession stands
$6
open?
million bucks?
Were the concession stands open?
Yeah. Yes, they were.
Yeah. See, that's,
hey, you want to know? Yeah, that's a good point, Dave. Go ahead.
That's where they'll make their money. Come on in for free, but we're going to charge you. We're going to charge you big money to be able to, eat and drink while you're watching these guys run around in their underwear.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. Would you rather have spent $30 a ticket for you and Emily to go to Media Day for the NFL Super Bowl, or bought 2 drinks at the bar for $86? Which would you have gone with? $60 for the Media Day or $80 on 2 drinks? Your thoughts?
I think I'd still go with the 2 drinks.
All right.
I would go with the 2 drinks as well. See, because Dave and Emily wouldn't have been able to get down and get an interview with Brock Purdy like I did.
Okay.
So,
by the way, you want to start throwing shade, Matt? All right, let's get to the let's get to the sandwich scoreboard update, shall we? Where's my little sounder here?
Hang on.
Hold on. Here we go.
Sandwich scoreboard update.
Now that you're back, Matt, it didn't work out well for you on Friday, did it? You put up 2 sandwiches to my 4, and you were the Cavs minus 4.5, and you took the Timberwolves on. I know the Timberwolves. You were laying points, and I know they lost outright. So now you owe me 2 sandwiches for that. So now you're in the hole. You got 2. You owe me 2 sandwiches. You owe KHOU's 1 sandwich. And you've got, of course, your 30 sandwich bet looming with the Warriors, whether or not they're going to win the NBA Finals with KHOU's.
Yeah, I got that. Don't worry, it's all good. I am sandwich rich. I got I got pastrami and salami for days, bro.
All right. Well, I just want to know, are you getting us a deal with a sandwich shop? That's where this needs to be going. You need to be getting us a deal with a sandwich shop, and then that way the sandwiches will just get passed out at the end of each month, which, by the way, Matt, we are almost at the end of this month. So
I know. So we definitely need to do that. And Coase is so excited, he just jumped off. I don't know what went on with Coase there.
Well, I was going to let that one slide because we're up against the break anyway. So I'm hoping he's going to be back before we get back from the break. But we will have a Matt Fowler sports update coming up on the other side of the timeout. And on the show today, we have a good friend of mine. He's been on this show actually before, Jason Bristol out of KHOU TV in Houston, Texas, will join us as we continue our spring swing. And we'll get a preview on the Houston Astros. Jason was with them at spring training last week and is now back in Houston, but we'll get his thoughts on what the outlook is for the Astros and what the big story is with them. And I want your thoughts on your sports influences. We're going to talk about Jim Boeheim was honored by Syracuse over the weekend, the longtime Syracuse basketball coach, and I'm going to share some thoughts about why that's important to me and, you know, how I was influenced in sports by Jim Boeheim and by Syracuse basketball, kind of leading to where I am as a sportscaster. And I want to get Coase's take on what his early sports influences were. And Matt, you can chime in. And we'd love to hear from the people out there on the text line. And you could call the show 352-234-TONY, 352-234-8669. Don't call on the topic now, but you can text now, and we'll get the texts in a little bit later. We'll open the phone lines probably after we get Jason Bristol on talking about the Houston Astros on our spring swing. And also, we'll get Matt Fowler's favorite topic today, the Golden State Warriors, because they made some news over the weekend with Steve Kerr signing a contract extension. That in and of itself, not necessarily news, but the amount of the length of the deal, I think, is newsworthy. So we will get to all that. It is all ahead as we continue on here with the Monday edition of LFG here on the Tony Bruno Sports Network, back after a quick timeout. Stay with us here on TBSN.
Okay.
I'm not hearing next cast.
I know. Robin told me that might happen, but commercials are playing apparently. Let me confirm with the app, but she told me that might happen.
Okay, because
I'm also hearing phone calls.
I'm hearing that's the call screener. That's coming from the call screener for sure.
Hang on. I'm gonna confirm.
Are we in a break?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're in a break.
Hang on.
All right, I got kicked off, and I think I know what the problem is. Hold on.
Yeah, Matt, that's the call screener, so try restarting it. Somebody may not be logged out. That's probably what's going on, is they're probably not Pete or somebody didn't log out of the call screener, so let Robin know that somebody's logged into the call screener. But you should close it for now, because otherwise you're just going to hear that. And I couldn't find I was looking for music to take us to break. I need to reorganize these things on this soundboard.
Okay, commercials are playing.
Okay, that's good. Where the heck is my... There it is. That's the one. That's the one I was looking for when I was going to break. I didn't have any music queued up, so... How are we going to know when we're back?
Let me test something really quick here.
Matt, you're coming back with the sports update, right? I can't hear you anymore, Matt. And I'm still hearing the call screener.
You can hear and see me, correct?
Yes.
Hang on. Hi. Yeah.
Maybe
okay,
not.
hang on.
Oh, good.
Let us know when we're... Well, you're just going to roll the sports update, so that's when we'll know that we're back. The 401 likes the underwear Olympics comment.
I love it.
All right, 10 seconds.
Oh, speaking of underwear Olympics, I got a question to pose.
Okay.
We'll do it on air, live.
All right. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
It's the bottom of the hour, or close enough. Time for your Tickscape Studios Sports Update with Matt Fowler.
Miami Heat forward Jimmy Butler is among 5 players suspended without pay for their roles in Friday night's on-court incident with the New Orleans Pelicans. Butler and forward Najee Harris were each suspended 1 game for instigating and engaging in an on-court altercation. The Bengals have made their first big decision of the offseason, placing the franchise tag on wide receiver T. Higgins. The move positions the Bengals to retain Higgins for at least 1 more season. For all the latest news, updates, and hot takes, tune into the Tony Bruno Sports Network on the TBSN app. Now back to Dave Benz and Jim Kozimor. This is LFG.
All right, thank you, Matt. Back to the Monday edition here of LFG. The 401 texted in during the timeout saying that they were dying laughing at the underwear Olympics comment. And I think I was the one who I may have been. Did you? I know you said it this morning on our call. Did you actually say it on the air before I did, or did I just steal that from you, Jim? Because that was.
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe Matt would know, though. Matt was working on some technical issues in there, so one of us somehow said it. That's all I know. And so it is kind of funny, isn't it? It is kind of a goof, and it kind of is true. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it was pure genius on your part. I did think it was genius, and then you did hear Matt talking during the break about this. This is what transpired over the weekend with the Heat and the Pelicans.
It all started with a Kevin Love foul on Zion.
Kevin Love.
Oh, it's broken out again. Valanciunas.
Not a lot of love going on there.
Thomas Bryant, excuse me. Oh, things have turned ugly here in New Orleans.
Yeah. 5 players suspended after benches cleared in New Orleans between the Heat and the Pelicans on Friday night. Jimmy Butler and Najee Marshall have each been suspended a game without pay for instigating and engaging in an on-court altercation. Pelicans guard Jose Alvarado and Heat center Thomas Bryant each suspended 3 games for leaving the bench. And then Nikola Jovic, not to be confused with Jokic, Nikola Jovic was also suspended a game.
That's tricky, isn't it? Right? That's pretty close, right?
Yeah, it is pretty close. Nikola
Yeah.
Jovic. He's new. He was not in the league when I was calling games. But he's in his rookie year, 27 years old, a first round. He was actually a 27th pick for the Heat in the 2022 draft. Anyway, guys don't often leave the bench in the NBA because that's I do feel like to see guys leave benches that during the 10 years that I called games, I don't think I ever saw anybody leave a bench. Usually they're very well disciplined about that, and the assistants are very good at controlling the bench and making sure that guys don't leave the bench because that is a no-no. And thankfully for the Heat, Jimmy's only suspended 1 game. The other guys are not necessarily marquee guys, but it is not a trend that the league wants to have happen. I feel like this year there have been more negative check marks going against the NBA than in a lot of previous years. All these little things just seem to keep popping up.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Your guy, Kevin Love, starting it all with a needless hard foul on a player who was on a player who's not strong at all, and Kevin Love had to come down on him. I'm watching the fight. It's weak. You're right. I do think that there are more bad check marks against the NBA this season. The fighting and the fact that the teams haven't been coming off the bench to multiply the fights stems from an incident that actually started with the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks, in which it was an ugly, ugly incident in which both teams, wasn't it a playoff game, I believe, Dave, where both sides had players coming off the bench, in an NBA fight fashion, which isn't, listen, the NBA fights aren't exactly haymakers, But still, it's guys coming off the bench and damage could be done. A lot of jerseys getting pulled and guys hugging each other. But I do think it's ugly. I do think it stinks. I do think it is not great for the game. But, you know, the NBA, I think guys get too butthurt too quickly. And this is that scenario. You know, Kevin Love tied him up as Zion was going up to either lay it in or try and dunk the ball, and he just held on to him. And you know what? It's a play that happens all the time. Zion fell down, and then the next thing you know, craziness ensues.
Yeah, it got out of control. It got out of control quickly. I mean, I've seen fights. I mean, think about the fight that we saw between who was it? The Timberwolves and the Warriors earlier this year when Draymond put Rudy Gobert in a headlock. So you go all the way back. That was the beginning of the season. I had to rethink about what had happened there. But the emotions can boil over quickly in the league. But guys leaving benches is not good, and so that was why there's such a stiff penalty. You leave a bench, you're going to get hit hard, and that's what happened. The 3 games apiece, that's a pretty big deal to get suspended for 3 games. And the key there is you get suspended for leaving the bench and for fighting, it costs you a paycheck. So that's really where it hits home. You don't want to lose a check. So.
No, you don't. I do think some of these guys make so much money it's a tax write-off for them, so they'll somehow deal with it. But you're right. You don't in theory want to lose the check, but you also don't want to screw things up for the league. You don't want to screw things up for the fans. Listen, Jimmy Butler's going to miss a game. Maybe my son or daughter's favorite player is Jimmy Butler, and we've been waiting all season, and we bought tickets for the next game coming up, and that's going to be their birthday present, Christmas present, whatever it was, Hanukkah present. And that's the game we had checkmarked as Jimmy Butler night in the Kozimor family, and we're taking little Ava Kozimor to see her favorite player. And now that favorite player isn't going to be there. And so I think that sucks for the fan, honestly. And I know that you might say, yeah, there are, 5 guys who are going there just to see Jimmy Butler. I don't care. When I'm paying $300 a ticket, it matters to me. No, that $300 ticket means more to me than the missed paycheck does to Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, but at least you know that he's not going to be there. Unlike having a ticket and then he's out for rest.
Load management.
Load management is the worst. It's that's a load right there. Load management.
It really
is. Now, am I the only one that has this view on it? I know that in a lot of these fights it has to do with you shouldn't score when the game's in hand and things like that, but sometimes if somebody says something, and like Jim, you and I were texting over the weekend, somebody felt disrespected or something, that's a lot of it. But like in my view, and I don't mean to trivialize it, but if I'm making that much money, like you can say whatever you want about my girlfriend or whatever, sure, fine, whatever.
Yeah, but not my wife. You could say what you want about my girlfriend, but don't say it about my wife. I'll tell you that, buddy.
Whatever. I mean, it's just like, is it really going to escalate to that level? Or are we really going to start throwing punches? Or I mean, I know punches aren't thrown very much, but then I think they should have the same rule in baseball. I think don't leave the bullpen. If there's some sort of a fight, don't do it.
Oh, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Can't leave the bench, can't leave the bullpen. Let the pitcher and the hitter go at it.
Yeah, I don't know why. Although in baseball, a lot of times it's just a lot of running. The guys run out and then nothing happens.
Exactly.
You don't often see. Of course, the best one was when was it Robin Ventura that charged the mound on Nolan Ryan?
It was a tough day.
Did you guys see the Nolan Ryan doc? By the way, Jason Bristol has joined us on the stream. We'll get to him in 1 second. But the Nolan Ryan doc, Coz, did you see that?
I have seen the start of it. I have not seen it in its entirety.
Yeah, they interview Robin Ventura and tell the backstory about that when he charged the mound. And he was basically told by the bench that Nolan is probably going to come in at you, and the expectation was that he needed to charge the mound. And he said the second he started towards Nolan Ryan on the mound, he knew that this was a grave mistake.
You know what? Good on Robin Ventura for doing the interview and having fun with it. Honestly, because that's something that we all have laughed at for years now. But good on him for at least coming clean with the story. And he is correct. It was a bad day for him, I'll tell you. Twice over, it was a bad day for him.
And Nolan Ryan was wearing a Rangers uniform when that happened. But, of course, during part of his career, long part of his career, he wore a Houston Astros uniform. And that takes us nicely as a segue into welcoming in Jason Bristol from KHOU TV in Houston, Texas. Good friend of mine. Jason and I have known each other. What's it been, like 30 years, Jason, that we've known each other? Has it been that long?
I think it has been, which is crazy to say. I mean, 30 plus years. Wow.
That just means we're old, my friend. We are.
Yeah, I just turned 50.
I prefer
I just turned
seasoned.
50.
Wait, when was your
you don't
birthday?
look at it all.
When was the birthday?
Back in November.
Okay.
Back in November.
All right.
Attaboy.
Well, congratulations.
Attaboy.
I guess just as no, it's not just turned 50. I'm 50 now. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But he keeps it clean. Look at that, Dave. Look at that handsome man. He's keeping it clean. He doesn't look 50.
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
If you're not,
Staying
You know what's
fit.
interesting? You know what's interesting about the Nolan Ryan documentary? Obviously, Reed Ryan, his son, they still spend time here in Houston. The family was the one that kind of got that off the ground. They were the ones who wanted to basically tell Nolan's story, not just for the family's sake, but for future generations. And again, Nolan Ryan never won a Cy Young Award, which is crazy to think. He never won a Cy Young Award.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. He was one of my favorites growing up, and he's one of those few people that I've been fortunate enough to get to interact with him and talk to him on a couple of different occasions, and he's one of those people that actually lives up to what you hope he will be. He was, courteous and generous with his time and just a pleasure to talk to. And a lot of times in sports, you meet these people who you've grown up having on a pedestal, and they turn out to be, not a very friendly person, or maybe you catch them in the wrong moment. Some of them you might need to give a benefit of the doubt, but man, Nolan was just great in my interactions with him, and I was glad they made that doc. And the thing I had forgotten about, guys, was how his last start was in the Kingdome at Seattle, and he was awful in his final time on the mound, and he kind of knew it was over with, and the fans in Seattle recognized the moment, and they gave him a standing O as he was leaving the mound. That was really the thing I took away from that doc.
Yeah, and Nolan's family, we were here for the premiere. One of the premieres was held here in Houston. I was there. Nolan obviously doesn't like publicity, and he's very so he's a private guy for the most part, I think, at this stage in his life. But it's really also kind of like this love letter to Ruth and what Ruth meant to the family, and how Ruth, Nolan had these doubts because, listen, before he gets to Anaheim, California, the California Angels, he's not Nolan Ryan. He's just a guy that throws hard and is all over the place. And he gets there, and a certain pitching coach really takes him under his wing, and that's how Nolan Ryan becomes Nolan Ryan. But without the support of Ruth and taking care of the family and encouraging him, it really is a good watch. But it's also, I think, in many ways, a love letter to their relationship and their marriage.
It's interesting, Jason. I think a lot of people, when they think of Nolan Ryan, they'll think of a couple of different eras of him. But in Texas, he is truly beloved, not only with the Astros, but with the Rangers as well. Is that kind of unusual that one person could be so loved by both teams in a state, but they all kind of claim him as theirs?
Yes, without a doubt. Now, I would say recently, though, Nolan is more associated now with the Rangers than the Astros. Certainly Astros fans love him, but there was a bit of a divorce a few years ago when Reed Ryan was no longer the president of the team. And that's kind of where this break, if you will, with the Ryan family and the Astros happened. I think from a business standpoint, certainly Nolan is now more associated with the Rangers. But for Astros fans, obviously, you cannot take away what he did in that Astros uniform. And he's also from Alvin, which is outside Houston as well. So He'll always be a Houston icon. He's in the Houston Sports Hall of Fame, but for business purposes, if you will, the family is more associated now with the Rangers. He did a video after the Rangers won the World Series, congratulating them. So again, business. He's more of a Ranger, but he'll always be an Astro in the hearts of Astros fans here.
One final note on Nolan, because I didn't know we were going to go down this road, but it's
Yeah.
it's always a great topic. The first time that I did get a chance to meet him and really talk to him, I asked him about, because I was a Mets fan growing up, and I still have a special place in my heart for the Mets. Although,
Who have you bounced to now,
well,
Dave?
I
Who do you
mean,
bounce
listen,
to
hey,
now?
I'm
Because
embraced
you're
where I
Mr.
live.
Bounce Around guy.
I've been in the Bay Area for 15 years, man. I'm entitled to root for the Giants, but if the Mets and Giants ever played in the NLCS, that'd be tough for me. But I asked Nolan about, the 69 Mets and being on the amazing Mets and winning the championship. And he said to me, he goes, you know what I did after we won the World Series? I'm like, no. He goes, I went back to Texas and was pumping gas during the offseason. That's how much things have changed. Nolan Ryan wins a World Series ring, and he goes back to Texas and was working at a gas station pumping gas because that's how little money he was making when he started off his career. It's unfathomable to think about that now.
And it was a culture shock. It was a culture shock for them to go to New York. I mean, basically, the two of them are, in many ways, right out of high school, and to go to the big city of New York, it was a culture shock. And Nolan wanted to retire an Astro. He wanted to retire an Astro, but at the time, I believe it was John McMullen, who was the owner of the team, didn't want to. He wanted to give Nolan a pay cut. So as soon as Nolan then hits the open market, it's the Rangers swooping in, and Nolan obviously still had many good years left. So yes, it was. Nolan is beloved by Astros fans and will always have a place here in Houston sports history.
Jason Bristol is with us from KHOU TV in Houston. And Jason, you were with the Astros in spring training. I know you're back in Texas now. What is the biggest storyline with the Astros this spring as they get ready for the season? Is it the health of Justin Verlander, or what are you guys talking about in Houston as it pertains to the Astros?
I would say right now it's the health of Verlander, but not just the health of Verlander, but this starting rotation. This team's going to hit. This team has arguably the best back end of the bullpen in all of baseball, but starting pitching, there are a lot of concerns. Certainly Justin Verlander, when healthy, is Justin Verlander, even at this age. Justin told us that he had a bit of a setback with his shoulder leading up to spring training. It appears as though it's taken care of itself, but now it's set him back for his ramp-up period to get ready for the season. It doesn't sound like he'll be ready for opening day. Then you have JP France, a rookie last year. He was dealing with a bit of a shoulder injury in camp. He threw a bullpen the other day. So there's two starters. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Jose Urquidy. That's 1 through 3 at this point. Hunter Brown, you'd think for 4, but if Verlander's not ready to go, JP France is not ready to go, you'll likely have maybe one of, as I like to say, one of the Space Cowboys in that 5th spot. That's the AAA affiliate of the Houston Astros now, Sugarland Space Cowboys. Sugarland about 20 minutes away. But starting pitching is definitely a concern because you've got 2 other starters, Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers Jr. They're rehabbing from injury. They probably won't be available until July. June, July. I asked Dana Brown, the GM, listen, do you feel like you should start looking, or have you inquired about getting another starter at depth? And he said he's always in the market. Now, whether they do that, I don't know. The other big story, which is since taken care of itself, was the addition of Josh Hader. I saw him in spring. Dude is nasty. But you already had an all-star closer in Ryan Presley. So it was like, okay, well, based on the contract of Josh Hader, he was certainly going to be the 9th inning guy. These relievers like to find roles. Ryan Presley, I think a couple of days into camp, admitted, yes, he was surprised by the acquisition. I said to him, were you surprised? He said, yes. And then he was asked, well, did you get a heads up from the team? And he said, yeah, I got a call saying we're going to make a run at Hader, and the next day we had him. So Ryan said all the right things. Doesn't matter, 4th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, I'll be ready to pitch. And Josh Hader can't be out there every 9th inning, so Ryan Presley will get some 9th inning opportunities as well. And then you also have Brian Abreu. So 1, 2, 3 in that bullpen, or 3, 2, 1. It's arguably the best in baseball. But I think starting pitching is certainly the biggest question right now, as well as Verlander's availability opening day. But listen, they're here to play the long game. No one cares about opening day is big here, don't get me wrong, but what's more important is October and September baseball, and Astro fans, they realize that they're playing the long game here.
Speaking of the long game, Jason, there are still fans who have the long memory of the Astros and the cheating scandal, alleged cheating scandal, however you want to look at it. And they still get their fair share of boos. There's a percentage of baseball fan that doesn't, they sports hate the Astros. Do you sense that in Houston, or in Houston is it us against the world? Or how do Astros fans or the Astros organization handle some of the negative thoughts around the Astros from years past?
I think the organization has moved past it. There's not a lot of guys left from that time. Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, those are the big guys. But when you look up and down the roster, there's not a lot of guys left from 17. Altuve, his teammates have come out and said he did not use this system. Again, there's not a lot of guys left. They're going to hear the boos. I think it's gotten less over the years. Certainly the 22 World Series title, I think that kind of validates that this team is a dynasty in many ways. So, but fans still take it to heart, without a doubt. Fans still take it to heart, and they feel that, hey, you guys went after us for all this for so many years, and we're going to fight right back. So, yes, fans still feel the heat. They still feel all of the anger from around baseball, but you might hear a little bit of it in the stands when you're at an away game. But again, most of the guys from 17 aren't even around anymore.
A lot of the guys, though, from 23 are around, and you lose 2 games at home in the ALCS, in which you win either one, you're going back to the World Series. And not only do you lose, but you lose to the team from Dallas. And having lived in Dallas, and we talked about it a little bit, I know how it's like people from Dallas don't generally like Houston. People from Houston don't generally like Dallas. That had to be the most difficult offseason to endure, knowing that you lost to the Rangers and you just needed to win 1 out of 2 at home to go to the World Series.
It was definitely difficult. I would argue 2019 was even harder, because you had Zach Greinke on the mound, the greatest Astros team ever. That's by far the most talented Astros team. You had Zach Greinke on the mound. He was pitching around some guys, and they went to Will Harris, and Howie Kendrick hits the home run, and basically there's your season. I would argue 2019 was a lot more difficult. This team last year, through injuries, some inconsistency, things like that. Remember, I mean, they were playing for the division title right up until the final days of the season. So the margin of error is a lot less than it once was. But yes, and it's funny, you mentioned at home. Well, the Astros cheating, right? The trash can, Minute Maid, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, come on. These games were at home. They lost 2 games in the American League Championship Series. And to lose, they were not good at home last year, which is really bizarre given how loud Minute Maid gets and kind of a home field advantage you would think they have. Chas McCormick told us during spring training, they've got to really play much better at home this year. And there was some talk that the batter's eye, there were some issues with the batter's eye in center field. They, towards the end of the season, changed it a little bit. They painted some more green out there because there's a patio bar that fans can sit at and watch the games from out there. So they actually they painted some of the wall green. But yes, losing at home was brutal, especially when you had Christian Javier, Framber Valdez, not in that order, but other way around, coming at home to 2 chances to win 1, and they couldn't do it. And Fromber and Christian Javier were not the guys from the year before, and that's going to be a big thing this season as well, because again, this team's going to hit, but the starting pitching, I think that's the biggest question mark. Can those guys return to their 2022 form? But yeah, it was tough for a lot of people here to see the Rangers win the World Series.
Jason, we've been asking a lot of the people we talked to about their local teams, a couple of baseball just overriding questions. And when you take a look at the schedule, the Astros schedule comes out, and we want to know kind of a face of baseball-ish type question, but most people just say Ohtani. So we alter it and just say, who's the most exciting player when you look at the schedule and you say, wow, I can't wait for X team to come to Houston because I'm excited about seeing this player do what they do best, or this up-and-comer, or this other face of baseball. Who excites you as a baseball fan when you look at that schedule and you say, oh, I really can't wait to see X?
I think it's been Ohtani. Ohtani. You know, obviously being in the same division as him, we got prior to his obviously departure to the Dodgers, but yeah, I think Ohtani and Houston is the most diverse city in the country. So we have people from all different backgrounds and countries. So I think Ohtani, what he brought to Minute Maid whenever he was here, there was definitely a vibe. And I think the face would be Ohtani. I think it would also be interesting this year. And what makes it also interesting is that they're leading off with them this season. You're going to have Juan Soto with the Yankees. The Yankees start off their season, and the Astros start off theirs facing each other here at Minute Maid. So I would put those 1-2. I'd put Ohtani and Soto for guys who are not on the Astros. But I mean, the face of this team, I think it's certainly Jose Altuve. They made a deal here to make him an Astro for life, an extension, and you know, he's just a superstar without a superstar attitude. And Houston just loves Jose Altuve, one of the greatest scouting stories and stories, most remarkable stories in baseball history. That guy his size passed over, told that, you know, we don't really think there's a place for you. And he comes back to a tryout camp and ultimately gets signed for like $1,000 or whatever. So, but I think big picture, Ohtani and for me, Juan Soto being a Yankee.
I didn't know that story about Altuve. That's great stuff. Jason, we're up against it, man, for our top of the hour break, but always good to talk with you, my friend. And I always love your car studio when you're on the show. It's a good look.
Yeah, it just kind of works that way. One of these days I'll plan it so that I'm actually in our studio and have it make it look pretty for you guys. So.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Jason Bristol, KHOU TV. We're taking a timeout. Back with hour 2 after this on the TBSN network. Jason, good stuff, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you, brother. We'll catch up again soon.
Definitely. Talk to you guys.
All right, see ya.
See you, Jason.
Later. Bye.
We should have asked him about the Rockets. Are the Rockets any good this year?
I don't think so.
I don't think they're very good.
No.
We were over. That's the if we don't take that break at 56, it kind of messes
it up because then you have to play commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
This is kind of trippy not hearing in the commercials. I know they're playing, but it's just trippy not hearing it.
Well, so why can't you hear it, Matt? Can't you bring it up during the break?
No, there's something with what Ron did to fix the echo. He just said you might not be able to hear the automation. He said he would try to fix it.
Hey, Dave, can you take the car over to Jeanette's house when you get a chance? Question mark. Thanks.
Well, I'll just wait on you to roll the open again so when we know we're back.
Yeah.
Dave, who were you talking to about Franklin, Tennessee?
Oh, one of my neighbors actually has somebody who lives there. So
Yeah,
we were talking outside my driveway the other day, and they're like, yeah, they mentioned Franklin, and I was like, oh, my co-host for my radio show lives in Franklin.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's awesome.
yeah. It's really a great little town. It's a lot of fun. And then up the street, the George Hallis's, I guess it'd be great grandson, our great grandson is moving in down the block from us.
I just watched the 85 Bears last night. The first time I'd seen that 30 for 30. I hadn't watched that before.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever watched
I didn't
it.
know there was one. There's
Yeah.
an 85 Bears 30 for 30.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to watch that. By the way, Coach, were you able to get Apple TV?
No,
Oh.
no, my wife. We have rejected the Apple TV.
I watched.
Come on, bro.
I watched episodes 3 and 4.
How
Friday night.
were they?
Good.
How were they?
Really good. Yeah, the Spygate stuff was good. Belichick did not. He did not want to talk. He said, "I'm going to let my previous comments stand," and then they cut back to an interview he had done with Armin Katayan, and Katayan went after him on it.
Really?
Belichick just didn't care. It was pretty funny.
And it's not that he didn't care, but he's just like he just wants it to go away.
Well,
Yeah.
no, but I mean, he did it though. All right, coming back 10 seconds.
Are you ready? Let's do it. Live from the Tickscape Studios. Let's f***ing go.
All right, welcome back to LFG. Dave Benz, Jim Kozimor, hour 2 of the Monday edition. We could have kept Jason Bristol on a lot longer. A lot of stuff to talk about with what's going on in Houston. And you asked about the Rockets off the air, Coz, during the break. The Rockets are 25-32. So they are not. They're not really a team that's. I mean, I guess they're still in contention for the play-in. They're 4.5 games back of Golden State for the 10 spot right now in the Western Conference. But I wouldn't really expect them to make a run. Warriors are back over 500 right now, by the way, at 29-27.
Yeah.
And I do want to get into. The news with Steve Kerr's contract extension. He signs a 2-year, $35 million deal. News of that broke on Friday after we got off the air. And I'm not really surprised that Kerr got a big money extension and, what he's done with the Warriors. And, you'll get the people who come out and say, well, yeah, you've got all that talent. Of course they should win. It takes a little bit more than just having the talent. You've got to be able to guide the team and keep the egos in check and have balance and all that. And Steve Kerr, whether or not you think that he was a big contributor to what the Bulls did in Chicago or not, Jim Kozimor, the bottom line is he was there. He saw how Phil Jackson handled things. He also was with the San Antonio Spurs under Greg Popovich. And, of course, he's got ties to – he was a ball boy at UCLA when John Wooden was coaching. So he's a guy who's been around great coaches his entire career and has developed into a great coach himself. He's, coaching Team USA. He'll be representing the United States at the Olympics in Paris this summer. So clearly a guy who has paid his dues. But what really struck me about that contract was the length. The Miami Heat gave Eric Spoelstra 8 years, $120 million. Greg Popovich just signed a 5-year deal prior to this season with the San Antonio Spurs. And Steve Kerr, he's in the last year of his current deal. He only gets 2 more years added on. And that kind of tells me more than anything, Coz, that, how much longer is Steph Curry going to play? Steph only has 2 years left on his deal that he's on right now. So that could be part of it. They're syncing up the contracts. But you have to start wondering, when is there going to be a mass exodus from this Warriors franchise? And could it be as soon as 2 years from now?
All right, so this gets back to my theory about Steve Kerr. His greatest asset and the biggest thing he learned from Phil Jackson is go to where the most talent is and suck up to the biggest names that you have. And that's exactly what Phil Jackson did. Wait a minute, that's a compliment. Phil Jackson was an assistant coach with the Chicago Bulls, was brought over by Jerry Krause. He gets elevated to the head coaching job when they kick out Doug Collins, and you can go over the litany of reasons of whatever it is, whether it's the reason they said or the reason that people whisper about. Doesn't matter. Phil Jackson takes over. Phil Jackson assesses the situation, sees who the superstars are, finds out the superstars don't like Jerry Krause. Phil Jackson wants to get himself ingratiated with the stars, so he also turns on Jerry Krause, which I thought was an abomination. He's the guy who brought you in from the CBA to make you an assistant. He's the guy who elevated you to be the head coach. But he read the room. He did what he had to do. He then coached the greatest players in the game to 6 championships. Then he left when all of that was going to change. And what did he do? I think he went and rode his motorcycle in Australia for a year. And then he came back to the team with the best talent in the game and again ingratiated himself with Kobe and Shaq. Steve Kerr has done the exact same thing. He could have gone with Phil Jackson to the Knicks, but he saw that there was more talent with Golden State. Smart move. Go where the talent is. He might have gotten more money with the Knicks in the short term. Remember, Derek Fisher got that job. Steve Kerr had the best talent. They were on the verge of winning. He did good things to get them into championships, but he ingratiated himself with the guys. I think that's his greatest gift, is that he's been able to befriend the biggest superstars in the game, and that has made them what they have become today. That's my view of Steve Kerr.
Good for him, man. You know what? Because
Right.
not everybody can be in a position to do that. And
Right.
So, and I think, listen, I doubt we see a day that, I could be wrong. Maybe there's some player that's Warriors end up with some amazing draft pick or whatever, but I doubt we see a day when Steve Kerr coaches without Steph Curry on a team. I think
Agreed. Agreed.
I think whenever Steph walks away, Steve Kerr's going to walk away. Steve will go right back into broadcasting. TNT or ESPN or whoever, they will unload the truck to pay him to do games. And, because he was a fantastic analyst before he got hired as the Warriors head coach. So he'll go back to that and enjoy, the great things that are associated with being able to do that, still be able to be close to the game, but not have to have that coach's schedule, which those guys do put in a lot of work. And so I think that's kind of you're seeing things sync up, and we've all talked about the end of the Warriors dynasty. I think we all agree that the window is probably closed. Now, could they somehow scrape up one last, sprinkle of magic dust and go on some incredible run? It's possible, not likely. Possible. I'm not going to say
It's not possible.
I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's the NBA is all about matchups, and if they get the right matchups, they can go on a run, and they are capable of beating any team on a given night if the guys are playing well. Is it likely? It's not likely. But the dynasty, for the most part, the days of the dynasty are over. But Steph is going to be playing still for a while, and Steve Kerr is going to coach him. And then they're both going to ride off into the sunset together. And then Matt Fowler's
You don't
gonna
think
have,
there's a chance that Steph finishes his career by playing a season with the Charlotte Hornets?
No chance.
No.
He'll
None at all?
None. He'll retire a Warrior. There's
Dave, Dave, I think with syncing up the contracts, what they're doing is they're going to reevaluate when Steph's contract's up, and they're going to give Steph. I think Steph has one more big deal, and then
What?
one more big deal. One more big contract.
Are you kidding?
I don't know about that. A big deal? Maybe like a 2-year deal, maybe, but he's not. He doesn't have a big. He might have like a 2-year, $60 million deal.
Yeah, no, that's what.
But he's not going to get a 5-year, $150 million deal.
No, right? No. I understand that, and I think it is going to be shorter. So maybe I just used the wrong words there, but no, yeah, I think it'd be shorter, 30, 35 million, something like that. And they're going to look at Kerr and they're going to go, okay, we're going to give Steph this. What do you want to do? And I think you're right, Dave. I think that as Steph goes, Kerr goes, because why would Steve Kerr coach anything without Steph Curry? Like, why would he do that?
Well, because he's a competitor and he wants to show that he can win, like Bill Belichick tried to win without Tom Brady. He wants to compete. Or is he going to ride the coattails of someone else?
By the way, speaking of Belichick, I'm going to tell you, Coach, the dynasty is worth the price for Apple TV. The
Pay
stuff
the
that,
$10, Coach. Come on.
The Spygate stuff this past weekend with episodes 3 and 4. That was really good stuff. And also they highlighted that they talked about the perfect season not being perfect and losing the Super Bowl to the Giants. And Teddy Bruschi was great talking about, they couldn't believe that it was happening, that the Giants were beating them after the David Tyree catch. And then he said he looked over and and he realized that the Giants were the Patriots when they beat the Rams, and they, and he's like, oh, I remember what that feeling was like, and they kind of knew the magic was happening for the Giants, and that it wasn't on their side that day. Anyway, it's good stuff. I don't want to get too far off on that, but Coz, you got to.
No, I want to stay on Curry for just a second. I want to stay. Well, I'll get to it. I'm sure I'll get to it. I want to stay on Curry. Curry's going to be 36 years old in a couple of days, right? So, what's the shelf life of a guard in the NBA? At what point is a 36-year-old guy going to be able to run around with 25-year-old guys?
I think you're asking the question the wrong way, though. What's the shelf life of the greatest shooter in NBA history? Because he's always going to be able to shoot. Where his game is going to suffer by age.
I still take Pete Maravich, but go ahead.
The beauty of Steph Curry. The beauty of Steph Curry, Coach.
Why do you say stop?
The
Go
beauty
ahead.
of Steph Curry was his constant motion. He was impossible to shut down because he constantly was in motion, right? And
at 36, how much more motion can you do
it? That's what I'm saying. So he'll always be able to be a spot-up shooter, and he'll always be able to nail shots. But his
Were
role
we
is
saying
gonna
that about
diminish.
Ray Allen? I mean, Ray Allen could shoot till the very, very end.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So Steph will always be able to shoot, but he's not going to be able to be putting up 30 a night on a consistent basis as he gets older. So what's the shelf life? I don't know. I mean, how much are you going to pay Steph Curry to go to just, shoot spot-up threes? We'll see. And how long is Steph going to want to do that? But he's still, he's still able to do what he used to do. I don't know
Didn't
about
the Lakers
that.
pay?
Didn't
Didn't the Lakers pay Kobe like $35 million his last year?
Well, I don't know what they paid.
Listen, Steph's making almost $52 million this year. He's going to make 55 next year. He's going to make almost 60 in his last year of his contract. The money part is fine, but to Dave's initial point, are we seeing the roadmap to the end of the Warrior dynasty? And it was a dynasty. Let's not quibble about that. But are they giving us the roadmap to, guys, get on board. If you want to see this one more time, it's only going to last 2 more years.
Yeah.
I think so.
Get your Last Dance documentary going, because it's we are at the end of that. There's no doubt. All right, I want to move on a little bit because you and I talked about this morning. Sports influences, right? And speaking of coaches and walking away, anybody who knows a little bit about me knows that I grew up in upstate New York, and I was a huge Syracuse basketball fan. When I was in high school, I had season tickets to games, and a lot of times I would actually walk in the winter. I would walk from my
uphill
house.
Both ways in the snow.
No, it was uphill. I would walk to the games. My aunt and my uncle also had season tickets. But for whatever reason, there were times when they wouldn't be able to give me a ride to the arena, to the Carrier Dome. So I would end up walking, and it was like a 5-mile walk. I'd end up walking in the winter to the Carrier Dome to go to the games, and then my aunt and my uncle would, I'd meet up with them, and they would give me a ride home after the games. But I was a diehard, man, and I went and watched some amazing. I watched, we talked about Pearl Washington and Derek Coleman and Billy Owens and some of those great iconic games. I saw Patrick Ewing play for Georgetown in the Carrier Dome.
Was Kenny Anderson part of that? Kenny Anderson
played for Georgia Tech, so he never played at the
there
Carrier
you go.
Dome.
Okay, no, okay.
But I saw Ewing
no, that's
play.
right. He was Derek Coleman's teammate. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
I'm thinking of the NBA version.
Yeah, Chris Mullen I saw play with St. John's. So it was fun. And Jim Boeheim was always a part of that. And I always felt like the day Jim Boeheim walked away from Syracuse would be the day that I really felt old, because he was the one constant from the time I gained sports awareness. Boeheim became the head coach of Syracuse in '76. I was born in '69. So by the time I became sports aware, Boeheim was the head coach, and he was the head coach all the way until the end of last season. So he was a constant in my sports life, and he was, by virtue of that and by extension of that, he was a big sports influence in me and really, set the fire for me with my love of basketball and really put me on a path that eventually had me calling NBA games. And over the weekend, Syracuse played Notre Dame. They almost gave away a 29-point lead. They hold on to win the game by 3 against the Irish, and Syracuse is still they're on the bubble, kind of, but they still have some work to do to really get a chance to get into the tournament under Adrian Autry. But, Jim, they gave Boeheim a send-off because he just walked away abruptly at the end of last year's ACC tournament when they lost and they were done. He went on the podium and said, "That's it, I'm done." He didn't have the goodbye tour. He didn't have the goodbye day. He didn't have any of that. So they gave him a day on Saturday. And Matt, you cut a quick soundbite from Boeheim talking to the crowd at the KHOU Dome on Saturday. Let's listen to that real quick.
You know, I came here in 1962, scared freshman, didn't know shit. I'm not scared anymore, but as my wife Julie will tell you, you still don't know shit. And I've said this many, many times. The reason our program is where it has been and is and will be is because of Syracuse basketball fans.
All right, yeah, Matt, that's good. That's enough on that.
And
But
so
He's talking about you, Dave.
Yeah,
He's talking about you, Dave.
But I mean, Coach, so I can relate to what you talk about with Tennessee, right? Like, I mean, I didn't grow up in a pro sports town. Syracuse was the Syracuse basketball was it. Syracuse football had a couple of nice years here and there, but overall, not really one of the blue bloods of college football. But when you talk about the great college basketball programs in the country, you know, you're going to talk Duke, North Carolina at the top of the list, and, you know, UCLA and Kansas. But Syracuse needs to be in that conversation, at least when you talk about historically the top 10 college basketball programs in the country. Syracuse is on that list, and that was a huge sports influence for me. And so I was happy to see that Boeheim got his moment in the sun, that everybody kind of gave him the big goodbye. And I just felt like I, wanted to bring that up today. And I'm curious. It makes me curious, because what is your sports influence? What lit the fire for you?
To finish off on your Syracuse
by the way, yeah, why do you hate
conversation.
Syracuse? That's the other question.
I sports hate the Syracuse Orangemen. I don't like that they changed their name, number one. But for some reason, it was the one team that that whole Big East that you guys wax poetic about. I despised their basketball. I despised St. John's and Georgetown and Syracuse. And I was more of a U of D Titans, Dick Vitale, DePaul Blue Demons, Ray Meyer, Marquette, Al McGuire. I was more of a center of the country fan of basketball with those three schools. I was a big DePaul guy. Marquette was in there, and I liked the UD. I used to be able to go to those games. It was kind of fun to watch them rise through the ranks and Dick Vitale start his shtick and eventually go to the Pistons. Then he becomes the TV icon that he is even now. So I just despise that Eastern style of slow, backing it in basketball crap. I hated the way they played. I hated the way everyone thought they were better than everyone else, and I just liked the way they played in the Midwest. So that was the beginnings of my distaste, my sports hate for your Syracuse Orangemen.
Well, they were a lot of years they were better than everybody else. Cause look at how many times they went to the Final Four out of that conference in the mid-'80s.
I'm with you, Jim. I hate this low scoring, half court offense. I don't like
slow
it.
down crap. I could still see Mark Jackson with his back to the basket, just pounding the ball, and you got Mullen running around out there, and I hated that whole brand of basketball. Just despised it.
So you must
give me Mark McGuire running up and down. Give me the Big Ten any day of the week. Give me Indiana basketball. And I hated Bob Knight. I did not like him. But give me that. I would love that. I could not stand the Eastern brand.
So you must have really hated the '85 national championship game then.
Yes, I did.
I
was not a big fan. Although it was Big Finish. Right?
That was iconic. Villanova over Georgetown. All right, so
that's one of the two great finishes of all time. Well, there are many great finishes all time, right? I mean, Indiana winning at the buzzer.
Well, the NC State win over Houston.
Over Houston.
That was probably
the most iconic.
Yeah. Of course, that Villanova one a few years ago with the three. Was it who was it that hit
Chris
that?
Jenkins.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But, all right, so you talked a little bit about your history
Oh.
growing up, and by the way, if Tim Ring's ever on the show again, I'm sure he will be. You need to talk to him about DePaul basketball. He was a huge DePaul basketball fan growing up in Chicago. But
Yeah.
so what lit the fire for you, Coach, sports wise?
So for me, and I might even tear up because of this, but my dad and I bonded over sports. And my dad was a big Bears fan and a big Cubs fan and big Blackhawks fan. And when we were young, we moved from Chicago to the suburbs of Detroit. And there were times when the Cubs would be playing on the West Coast, whether it was the Giants, Dodgers, or the Padres. And those games would start at what would be 10 o'clock or 10:30 Eastern time. As you know, Dave, growing up on the East Coast, when your Mets would go west, you'd get up in the morning, you wouldn't know if they'd won or lost, and it might not even be in the newspaper that day because they've already gone to print. But my dad and I would sit in our car in the driveway, and we could pick up WGN radio station if we sat in the car. And he and I, late into the night, would sit in the car and listen to the Cubs. And it just got me, it connected me to my dad, and it connected me to sports because it's something he loved. Many of us idolize our dads, and it connected me. It gave me something that, he and I had in common. He was this, how your dad is always this big, larger-than-life superhero. Well, this connected me to him, and so I was really into sports. And as I got older and became more, involved in playing sports, and I was decent in a couple of them and had a chance to play in certain areas, and my dad would always come and watch. It always connected with us to sit and either watch a game together or listen to a game together. And whether it was in that same driveway or if the Bears were ever on TV and we got to sit together, it was a big moment for us. And so as I got older, kind of flash forward to my high school years, as I had a group of buddies and we just used to goof around all the time. Well, one of the things we used to do to goof around was we would sit and watch whatever sport was being played, like if it was the boys baseball team or the football team. And we'd sit in the crowd and we would imitate the announcers in Detroit and we'd try to make each other laugh. Like we'd just say stuff like, ordinary calls. We would kind of do ordinary calls for just sitting next to each other calling high school games. And we were goofing off one day, and one day I did it and it was my turn. And the guy I was doing it with turned to me, he goes, "You're actually pretty good at this. Do you ever think of doing it?" And it never occurred to me that you could have that job.
Right.
And at that moment I was like, wow, maybe I could do this. And it was later a connector because I think we've talked about this. Everyone always asks us, Dave, what's the greatest event you've ever done? You've done the Olympics. You've done the NBA. You've done these huge events. What's the biggest thing you ever did? For me, it was doing a Bulls game at Chicago Stadium with my dad as the stats guy sitting next to me.
Yeah.
And Michael Jordan's inbounding. And here's the place he used to take me when I was a kid to go see the Bulls and the Blackhawks. Here's a sport we used to watch together. Here, his son was calling that game of his hometown team. I was doing the Sixers at the time, and he's doing stats for me, and he's wearing a headset. That, to me, is the greatest. I'm going to choke up now. It's the greatest moment I've ever had as an announcer.
It's
not even close.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great memory for me.
Yeah,
really great.
I can't even. I've always said all the places that I've gotten to call games, and Madison Square Garden and Staples Center and the whole 9 yards. A bucket list thing for me would be to call a Syracuse game at the KHOU Dome. It's something that I've never gotten to do. I mean, if I got to call Syracuse playing Hofstra, that would be elite for me.
That would be awesome.
That's still something that I would love to do.
They're an ACC school, is that right? They're
ACC school, yeah.
The ACC is now pulling in Stanford and Cal.
Yeah,
you might be able to do a game. You might be able to do a Syracuse game, buddy.
That would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. If I were you, I'd be putting the feelers out to the ACC network and saying, hey, your West Coast correspondent should be me.
Yes.
I should be the guy doing these.
Yes.
And, listen, on occasion, I got to go back to Syracuse. I'd love to do a game there.
There you go.
I'm not kidding.
No, I know you're not. This is a phone call I need to make as soon as we're off the air. I'm sure they're all listening to TBSN, though, so they've already heard
Good point.
it now. Yeah.
Good point. They'll be calling you, Dave.
Yeah,
they'll be calling you.
All right. If you want to chime in on sports influences, I'm sure a lot of us are taught, my dad dad was an influence on me as well. He was a big Yankees fan, and we would sit and listen to the radio or, go to minor league baseball games and whatever. But
How did you become a Mets guy if he was a Yankee fan?
You know what?
That'd be like me being a White Sox fan.
No, it was the perfect storm because, you get to that age where I was initially, when I was young, I was a Yankees fan because my dad was a Yankees fan, and that was all I knew, right? But then when I got to high school, the Mets, they got you know what actually made me a Mets fan? This is crazy. I can pinpoint the night I became a Mets fan. We had just gotten cable television, and it was a Friday night, and I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and the Mets had just gotten George Foster from the Reds. And my parents went out, and I was home alone, and I fell asleep on the couch. I was watching the Yankee game with our new cable TV, which was all, magical.
Sweet.
And
yes.
so the Yankee game ended, and I turned on the Mets game, and the Mets game was still on, and I wasn't paying much attention to it, and I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up, and the game was still on, and it was in the 16th inning. And they had just gotten George Foster from the Reds, and they put George Foster in the bottom of the 16th, down by 1, and Foster cranks a 2-out, 2-run home run to win the game.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, okay, I think I like this Mets team. And
that's cool.
And then Ron Darling comes up, and Darryl Strawberry, and then Dwight Gooden, and it all started to roll, and so I became a Mets fan. They got Gary Carter, and it was awesome.
Do you remember Howard Johnson from those teams?
Oh yeah, Hojo.
Okay, here's one for you. So my pickleball partner on our team is Matt Wisnant, the former major league pitcher. He obviously lives here and works with Howard Johnson at a baseball academy here in Franklin, Tennessee.
I always thought
the great Hojo.
Wisnant Hunt, but it's Wisnant.
That's Matt. That's Ken Wisnant Hunt, the coach, and then Matt Wisnant was a relief pitcher in the majors. He won a World Series with the Marlins, pitched for Kansas City, and I want to say San Diego. In fact, Bochy was his manager at one point in his career, but he was a relief pitcher. And, he works with Howard Johnson at a baseball academy here. Tons of baseball influence down here in the Franklin, the Nashville area, we'll just call it. That's so. If you ever want to meet Howard Johnson, come on over, man. We'll get you over to his academy.
That would be cool. Hojo was one of the, he was one of the last ones standing when they left the room. They getting rid of Dykstra was kind of the beginning of the end. They traded Dykstra for Juan Samuel, and I remember I was like, what are they doing? Getting rid of Nails. And Hojo had to have been a juice guy, right? He came out of nowhere and then all of a sudden hit 40 home runs. I mean, it's like,
yeah. There are a lot of guys who had that, but it's funny you say that about Dykstra. Dykstra, whom I disliked as a player because I was a Cub fan and I disliked the Mets greatly. Dykstra's had quite the post-baseball career life, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, but there was news. Didn't he have a stroke? I'm calling it out now. Dykstra recently was in the news. There was a health ailment that went on, but other than that, there are some other interesting things that have gone on in his career. Yeah. Of course, I type in his name, and the first thing that comes up is he's facing eviction over $50,000 in unpaid rent. So
there you go.
Things
That's what I mean.
Things post-baseball for him have not been amazing.
That's a little rough.
He did go to the Phillies. He did take the Phillies he was on that Phillies World Series team that lost to the Blue Jays in '93. I'll never forget that. But anyway, if you want to chime in, hit us up, 352-234-TONY, 352-234-8669. You could call us or text us and tell us about your sports influences as we got a little bit of time to be able to go deeper into that topic. And that is great stuff about Howard Johnson, though. Come on, Matt, real quick, what was your biggest sports influence?
Well, my biggest sports influence, like Jim and you were saying, is my dad and I we would go to games and stuff, and kind of a funny nugget with it. So I would, my influence wanting to get into broadcasting was the reason why we have season tickets for the Warriors, because I wanted to go to games and we had like a mini plan, and it was the We Believe year. They had this deal. It was the We Believe year that you could, if you got season tickets, you got some sort of a discount and, better seats and all this stuff. And so my dad opted for it, and I would call the Warriors so much and get these deals and everything that up until how long have there have been like digital tickets where we don't have the paper tickets anymore. It's only been a few years, right?
I don't know, man. I think it's almost a decade now. It's
Well,
been a
no, I
while.
mean, well, back when they used to send, and it was earlier than a decade, but back when they used to send the tickets, right before the season, they send the 40 tickets. My name would be on the package from FedEx, not my dad's, who pays for the tickets, but my name, because the
Awesome.
Warriors know me. So
And there's no better day when you have, and that's that's the one thing that you kind of get robbed of as a sports fan now. You don't get to hold the tickets. And Coz, I don't know
I
if
agree.
when
I
you
agree.
would get when that envelope would arrive and
so
you would
gold.
look and see all the tickets, it was just like that was like Christmas, man. That was
Yeah.
better than Christmas in a lot
it
of ways.
was.
That was awesome. My dad and I went to an NBA All-Star game together at Chicago Stadium. He still has my dad passed 10 years ago, and in his condo when I go back and stay there, he still has it framed from when he and I went to the game. He still has his ticket. In fact, the funny thing about that All-Star game ticket is, they'd have to, for those people who don't know, you would hand them a ticket, then it would be perforated, and they would tear off a portion of the ticket. They would keep it, and you would get the big piece of the ticket. And the person who ripped it off the perforation, and it's got a jagged edge at the bottom, but it's in part of it. It's riveted in my head right now. I can picture it. He got that framed because he and I went to that game together. Then we went to a Bears Super Bowl together. He's got that framed as well. So he's got a couple of tickets that are framed up on his shelf. So you're right. I love those tickets. I miss those times. I despise getting them electronically and then putting my phone up to something. I like the hard ticket. I like the feel of it. It's a great souvenir also.
I do remember one thing before we go to break. Just one specific memory. You go over to baseball and me and my dad we were looking at the Cardinals series back in 2012, and I had a hunch that it was going to go 7. It was game 6 and 7 at AT&T Park, and I just had a feeling that it was going to go 7. So instead of buying tickets to 6, we bought tickets to game 7 and sat there in the upper deck as the rain came down.
Nice.
And that was one of the most unbelievable sports experiences, because when the hell does that happen? It's just it's clear all day, and then the skies just open up, and Marco Scudero's on second base catching raindrops with his tongue, and it was just amazing to be there.
That's got to be a cool memory. I mean, honestly, to see your team win a title, that's got to be that's a cool memory.
And to do it with your dad, that's the best. Having those memories with your dad. All right, there you go. Little cats in the cradle to take us to break.
I'm gonna cry.
Fellas.
You're making me cry. Come here and hold me. Come over here. Hold me. Make me feel better.
Back with the final segment of LFG on this Monday after this timeout on the Tony Bruno Sports Network.
He'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad.
Nice.
We in the break?
Yeah.
Okay. How long do we have?
We have. Let's see. Oh, this is a short one. We have 2 minutes. Yeah, just this commercial and then the next one.
But then you got the update, right? I'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim, it's funny. Another one. So we went to Game 5, Warriors Cavs 2017. The first one with Durant, and me and my dad are sitting there. We're sitting in the club, right? In the VIP club at Oracle. And he says, we can just watch it here. And I go, no, let's go back to our seats. He's like, man, I want to sit here and drink my beer. I'm like, no, we're going to go watch the confetti come down and all that stuff. It was pretty funny.
I turned my mic off. Yeah, you got to get out there and see that. You definitely got to be there. Now, were you in the VIP club or the supersized VIP club, the one that has the glass wall that you could see through?
At Oracle, it was just the courtside club, wherever the courtside ticket people.
Oh, I thought there was a secondary club.
Oh, there,
that was only for like Lacob and his
Yeah, they made
Crew.
one in like the tunnel in the later years. Yeah, no, I've been in there once, but I wasn't in that one. But yeah, we said hi to Snoop Dogg. It was great.
Hold on, I just hit my button there. There we go. I'm going to make sure that you can hear me. Yeah, I didn't mean to seem like I was pushing you to the side this weekend. We just had a lot of things going on. I was at Mass the one day. My wife and I had date night. And then yesterday, I was loaded with one couple from California who's moving here to our neighborhood. We were at their house all morning long. My wife and I went and played pickleball. And then my buddy from college, him and his wife pulled up, and they were here until today at about 11:30.
All good, coming back.
It's the bottom of the hour, or close enough. Time for your Tickscape Studios Sports Update with Matt Fowler.
Miami Heat forward Jimmy Butler is among 5 players suspended without pay for their roles in Friday night's on-court incident with the New Orleans Pelicans. Butler and forward Najee Harris were each suspended 1 game for instigating and engaging in an on-court altercation. The Bengals have made their first big decision of the offseason, placing the franchise tag on wide receiver T. Higgins. The move positions the Bengals to retain Higgins for at least 1 more season. For all the latest news, updates, and hot takes, tune into the Tony Bruno Sports Network on the TBSN app. Now back to Dave Benz and Jim Kozimor. This is LFG.
All right, Monday edition rolls on, and open phone.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So we were talking about the underwear Olympics
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
early.
Yes.
And which leads me to I need to buy some new chonies, my underwear. So my question is, how often do you buy new underwear for yourself?
that's a personal question.
I
Listen,
know.
I quite possibly might have underwear that is. I mean, listen.
I think I've got some that's old as my kids. And my youngest
I have
kids are
underwear
18.
older than my son, for sure.
You guys are gross.
Exactly. I agree with you. We are gross.
What the hell are we talking about this for?
I need to go buy them. I need to buy some new ones. And I got to be honest with you.
You're banned from the show. You're banned from coming back from break.
Do you know when? You know when I end up buying underwear? I end up buying underwear when I travel, because for some reason it is the one thing I feel like I always forget to pack. I get somewhere and I'd be like,
interesting.
Damn it, I forgot
How
to pack underwear again.
That doesn't make any logical
I don't know,
sense.
but that's in fact, we're totally going to digress now. But
I love it.
do I have the? Oh yeah, here we go. I still have this in here. The Viva Las Vegas. I went to NBA Summer League one year, Coz, and I realized that I had forgotten to pack the skivvies, and so
You're in Vegas, baby. Who needs them? You know.
Yeah,
free ball on it.
Yep, free balling it.
So
there you go.
Going commando. So my buddy and I, Dane Moore, who was on the show with us, by the way, runs the Dane Moore podcast. Dane Moore and I were on the Vegas Strip, and we're leaving some bar, and we're literally walking down Las Vegas Boulevard at 2 a.m., and the Ross Dress for Less on Vegas Boulevard is open 24 hours. And
That's good.
So I say to Dane, I'm like, hey, I got to run in here. I'm going to buy some underwear quick. Dude, the line at Ross Dress for Less at 2 in the morning to buy underwear. I waited in line like 20 minutes to pay for underwear. It was at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a really friendly crew. I'm sure that was not unsightly at all at 2 in the morning in Ross.
Oh,
you know?
So when I
might have gone commando for a lot longer than standing in that line with those miscreants.
Well, so my at my going away party when I left Minneapolis, Dane comes to the party and he's got a gift for me, and I open up the gift and it's freaking a package of underwear.
God, that is something. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, but you got a brand? You got a special brand you like? I'm a boxer brief man.
Oh yeah, definitely go boxer brief, 100%. But brand, I mean, I'm all over the place. I've got some Calvin Klein. I've got some Polo.
Oh, fancy.
Fancy.
Damn.
But I also have some Hanes. I mean, it's. Like,
I have Hanes, and they don't keep their shape. I'm a Fruit of the Loom man. Love the Loom. I'm a Fruit of the Loom man.
No.
Not gonna lie.
All right, 352-234 Tony. Let us know your thoughts on your.
What kind of
underwear
chonies do you buy?
influences.
What's a good choni? Because they've got some expensive chonies out there, and I'm just wondering, if they're good, I'll buck it up. I'm at that point in my life. I got a couple extra dollars. I could
Well,
you know.
actually, now that you put it in perspective, though, you make an
Mhm.
underwear purchase, you're probably going to have it for a decade. So why not
Yeah,
invest?
good call. Good call, Dave. That's a good call, buddy. That's true.
You might
That's
as-
true.
you
I get
might as well
every
invest
good bang
properly.
for my buck.
Yeah. I put that kind of logic into when I buy betting, right? Like I'm going to spend a third of my life in this, so I might as well get something nice. Same thing.
Yep.
Same thing with the skivvies. Might as well make sure you do that well.
Well, I mean, the bed thing is a little bit different. Like my girlfriend was buying a new bed the other week, right? And she was sending me all this stuff. She sent me this pink, one with like the 4 posts and the huge. It was like $10,000. She's like, "Should I buy this?" I'm like, "No. Why would you spend that much money on a bed? Like, what are you doing?"
Because that's where you're going to be, man. What are you create? Like
$10,000,
dude. Over the course, how long is it going to last you? If it's going to last you 20 years and you're going to spend a third of 20 years in it, yeah.
But you can buy one for $3,000 and it'll last just as long.
No, is it going to be as good? Do we have a Get MF today, by the way?
Yes, we have
All
one.
right, let's do that because we got a little bit of time here before
Do
Tony
that now?
joins us.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Hang on.
Fowler may be congenial producer by day, but in this segment, he's ditching the nice guy routine. Time to get MF'd.
All right, so this carries over a little bit from Friday, but I am sick of college football differentiating itself for no good reason on certain things, and I think the NFL needs to merge into the NCAA a little bit. By the rules, there shouldn't be any clock stoppages for NCAA when you get a first down. There shouldn't be you shouldn't be down when you catch the ball, and it you should just be able to keep running. What do you guys think?
Wait. You're all over the board on me. Tell me what you're trying to say.
All right, so I'm going.
Yeah.
There are rules in the NCAA, like the clock stops when you get a first down.
I think they changed it though. It's not the whole game anymore.
It's
which
the
which
last
is
2
good.
minutes, so they made that a little bit better.
Yeah,
But-
because it was brutal. But I do like the difference. I think the clock stopping in college is good in the last 2 minutes because it changes the way it changes the way you play the game. You don't need a timeout, and I like that.
But what about you're down if your knee goes down, regardless if you're touched? I don't like that at all. I think you should get up and be able to keep running. What is the reasoning behind that?
You know what? I think it was the original rule. Once your knee touches, you're down. The NFL is the one, I think, who changed it to you must be touched when your knee is down or be touched on your way going down when your knee hits. I think that's the original rule. I think they've never changed it or advanced it. I think the NFL is the one who made the change.
Well, shouldn't it revert back to the NCAA? I mean, in terms of shouldn't they adopt that rule from the NFL?
They won't. They're too arrogant. They won't do it. They just won't.
There's just no logical reason for it. There's
I
none.
would like to see my bigger thing is I'd like to see them go to you got to get 2 feet in bounds. The whole 1 foot thing in bounds in college, like make these guys have 2 feet in bounds. Why do they let them go with just one?
I
Yeah,
like
it
both
doesn't-
rules. I like them when they're down when their knee touches, and I like 1 foot in. It's funny. I like that. It's a different part of the game. Their game is different than the pro game. The pro game is the step up, right? This is the starter kit. The college game is the starter kit. The NFL is the real deal. And I do think, different games sometimes could use different rules. I think it is more exciting in college football if I just need to get 1 foot down. I have more access to offense that way. There will be a number of plays that might be taken out if I have to get 2 feet down. I like there being slight differences. I'm not going to have I'm not going to go on a protest if anyone decides to change their rules, but I kind of like the fact that there are differences in each rule.
Well, I just think that, if you make some sort of an acrobatic catch and it's a big game and you aren't touched, and maybe that's what prevents you from scoring the game-winning touchdown in the national championship. Maybe you make some dive for some catch that you shouldn't have had, and then you should be able to get up and run into the end zone. That's just me.
Well,
It's just your thought process. You don't have there's no data. Like you just feel it needs to be that. Everything
Right,
should
you
be
know,
the
yeah,
same across
I
the
don't have
board.
data on it, but I'm sure I could
Yeah.
get some. But yeah,
No,
You want
it's no.
consistency. You want consistency, Matt. That's what
yeah,
you're.
I
you're
want
looking
Yeah.
for.
consistency.
Yeah, that you'd rather have that. Whereas, you know, and I kind of like it the way it is. But again, if they decided tomorrow that they're going to go to the 2-foot inbounds, and you know what, if a player's knee touches, he can get up and keep going. That's fine too. I'm not going to stop watching the college game. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I do like I would not, and I do like there are some differences, right? Like I would not want the NFL to stop the clock on first downs. I would not want that to happen, but I do
Exactly.
like it being in the college game. I think it does make it a different game. It makes it a little bit, you know, it's fun to be able to see different things played different ways.
Well,
And it can give you a chance to come back into the game without using your timeouts. You can, in theory, rush the line of scrimmage, and you get a couple of seconds to save.
And you can
I
use
like
the middle
that.
of the field, which is
Yeah.
big.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Strategically, extraordinarily huge. Right.
Changes everything. So
best thing about college football, in my opinion, is the overtime rules. I like the overtime rules. I think the NFL needs to. We've talked about it. The NFL needs to do some sort of a adaptation similar to that. But yeah,
What is it? Put it at the 25-yard line and let them go.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. I like the college overtimes. I you know, the NFL overtime. It's still
It's
work in
getting better.
progress.
Yeah, it's getting better, but it can be improved upon.
I would say of arrogance, this is my opinion. I think the NFL is arrogant in that they wouldn't do something college did. Just as they would never take their kickoff, which is now the kickoff is a wasted play in the game. They would never take the kickoff and do what the old, was it the XFL who did it? Or
Where
the
you
other
ran
league?
after the ball.
No, nothing. That was a good one. I used to love that.
Yeah,
Where they go,
that's cool.
you know what? Were they
I like
20
that.
yards away?
Yeah,
And
I
they
think
go
they
for
ran
it?
from the end zones, didn't they?
They did.
I don't know where they ran
no,
from,
yeah,
but it
no,
was-
they
it-
did. They ran from the end zones to the 50-yard line. The one end zone, the other end zone. And like the first time they did that, some guy blew out his ACL, so they stopped doing it.
Yeah, a guy got injured on the very first one. But the later versions of the league, the kicking team started in the receiving teams, like at their 30 or 35, let's say, but they could not advance until the return man caught the ball. And so he he like receives it at the goal line. Now the defense can start running forward to go tackle him. So you're not running from your own 30 or 40 or whatever, or 35-yard line is where they put the ball. Is that it? You don't start running 60 yards and you get into this 20-mile-an-hour collision. Instead, you're starting from their 30, 35, and you have a shorter amount of distance to get to the guy, so there's not that immense collision. I actually loved that rule. I thought it made the kickoff relevant again.
How about this? Just no kickoffs.
No, that'd be terrible.
I mean, because
Well, essentially, Matt,
We
right,
are
Matt?
heading, we are heading that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it is an exciting play. The problem is so many people get hurt. That's the. But
well,
if you,
and then how many touchbachs are there? I mean, there's so many touchbacks.
well, that's the point. There's pretty
Yeah.
much. It's got to be like 85% are touchbacks nowadays. You know, and you never see the ball get kicked out of bounds because these kickers now are so good. Like they very rarely do you see a ball get kicked out of bounds. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so should we keep it for the 15% of kicks that get actually attempted to run back?
Well, I think I like what Coase is saying. So Coase, that was the UFL. What league was doing that with those kickoffs?
So I want to make sure because they were competing spring leagues. The kicker lines up at his 30-yard line with the 10 other members of his kickoff team lining up at the opponent's 35-yard line. So I'm kicking to you, Dave. I'm alone at my 30. You're receiving it at your goal line. My 10 teammates are standing at your 35, but they cannot move until you get the ball, right? And the return team is at their 30. So my 10 guys and your 10 guys are 5 yards apart from the 35 and the 30. The kicker and the returner are the only players who can move until the ball is fielded. That's it. Everyone else has to stay standing. And touchbacks were placed at the 35-yard line.
Now, do
So
I
it gave
do,
you in-
do I have to line
ahead.
up all my guys? If I'm the kicking team, do I have to line all my guys up on the 30? Can I keep like one guy back in case somebody busts free?
If you're the return team or the kicking
The
team?
kicking team. Can you keep
No,
keep
the
a guy
kicking
back?
team, all 10. Oh, I don't know. The way this is written, it's that all 10 guys are standing at the 35.
Right.
Yeah, so that the point is, you're up closer. The blocking and tackling aren't coming at the immense speeds. You still have a return, which is a play in the game. And if you kick it through the end zone, if I kick it out of the end zone, you get the ball at the 35-yard line, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Starting at the 35 is a pretty good place to start the football. So I like that rule. I would love for the NFL to incorporate that and see how it plays out.
It'll be interesting to see what rule changes that the NFL comes up with. The competition committee always meets in the offseason, and sometimes it's no big deal, and sometimes they come up with some wrinkles that kind of make you think. Like probably the biggest adjustment was, remember when the NFL used to have you didn't have to get to 2 feet in bounds, like if you got pushed out of bounds before you got the second foot down.
Yeah.
And then they changed that. I think that was a positive change.
Yeah.
So, the league is always looking for a way to get better and get things more exciting. Anyway, speaking of more exciting, our show's about to get more exciting because it's time for the crossover. Welcome in Tony Bruno.
Hello?
And those who are watching on the live stream, I finally Hello. Can you hear us?
There was
Tony?
one?
Can you hear me now?
We got you. Can you hear
Good.
us?
Got you, Tony.
Good.
All right.
I'm excited because I'm not an AT&T customer, but for all the AT&T users out there, congratulations. You are getting a $5 credit on your next phone bill because of what happened last week with the solar flare, whatever the hell happened.
It was the Chinese government.
What are you going to do with that $5
Deep state.
if you're an AT&T customer?
I'm going to buy
that's a
new
good call.
underwear, Tony. I'm going to buy new underwear.
Where are you going to get new underwear for $5? You can't even go to Goodwill and get used underwear for $5.
The overnight Ross dress for less in Vegas, where Dave shops. Telling you, he's there at 2 in the morning shopping for chonies.
There's a lot of other things you can do at 2 in the morning in Vegas.
I know.
It's the old joke. What do I get for $5? Anything. Anything you want. Remember that scene?
Oh yeah, that was what movie was that? Was that a Platoon? What movie was that?
I forget. It was a military movie, but I forget what it was.
I think it might have been Platoon.
Yeah, I feel like it might have been Platoon, and then of course Two Life Crew used it in their big breakout hit
Me So Horny. Yeah, the Me So Horny classic. Oh, me so horny. Oh, me so horny. Me love you long time.
If you had Tony
Is that
singing,
cultural appropriation I just did?
It was.
I believe you did.
Full Metal Jacket. That's where it was.
And it was. What do you get for $10?
Oh, $10. Well, they're only giving $5.
Miss Rob is no cheapie. She's $10.
$5.
She's cheap.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you cannot get
No.
anything you want.
For
No.
$5. There's not even
Double that.
$5 footlongs anymore at Subway, right? You notice that?
Yeah. Are they
You
giving
notice they don't advertise it anymore?
Are they
They
giving
can't sell $5 footlongs
$14
anymore.
now.
Yeah, $14
Exactly.
footlong.
Are they giving
Or
you
it doesn't-
$5 per
the jingle won't
subscriber?
work.
So if you're on a family plan, do you get for multiples of 5 or just 5 for the one account? That's the burning question. Tony, seriously though, Jim brought up underwear. What is the average age of the items in the Tony Bruno underwear drawer?
They're pretty new. I have a lot of underwear. You have to have a lot, but I have all different types. I got the boxers, the briefs, and if I get a pair of those new Major League Baseball Nike see-through pants, I'll be wearing those proudly.
Yes, you and me both.
Play baseball.
I put it in order for a few more.
I'm going to buy a pair of those. I'm going to buy a pair of those Major League Baseball Nike uniforms, and then wear like thongs and every day, just so people can see what I'm sporting right now.
Well, regarding your question, here's something I can guarantee. If Tony were single, his underwear age would be a lot older.
Is that true? So,
well, you can
you
wash
maybe have been
underwear.
keeping an eye.
You don't have to change them every. Listen, I've probably got at least 15 pairs of underwear.
Men keep underwear way longer than they should.
Well, okay, so
Way.
how long do women keep underwear, Robin?
Well, around me, only for about a half an hour before.
Attaboy. Attaboy.
Oh.
And then I say, move to the jacuzzi. Slap it up, flip it, rub it down. Oh, no.
I think with women,
Do Me Baby. Remember that classic?
Oh, yeah.
Women, there's two classifications of underwear. If you are still in the prime of your life and you have that certain time of month, you have those underwear that you only wear for that time of the month because
Gotcha.
you don't care if anything happens to them. And then you have the other underwear that you always want to have look nice. So as soon as there's a thread loose or a hole, they get tossed. They're gone.
I don't keep
And you-
I don't keep ratchety, crappy underwear.
Oh,
especially
I
the
do.
crappy ones.
I do have those.
I guarantee you, there's not one pair of underwear in
Oh.
my drawer that has a hole in it or shredded or any of that
Oh.
stuff.
He's so wrong.
Well, as long as you keep the lucky pair, that's all that matters, Tony.
Lucky pair.
Because, listen, the underwear Olympics are about to be taking place in Indianapolis. That's how we got on this topic. And I just want to know, are you a
That's right. It's the combine, right?
Are
The
you a combine guy, Tony? Do you care about the combine?
Nah, I mean, I only care about the 40 times. But, again, it goes back to the discussion we were having at Super Bowl Radio Row, with guys like guys who are great track stars and athletes, like Irving Fryer. Irving Fryer was a track star in New Jersey. Yeah, but he also became a good football player because he could catch the ball. A lot of track stars. Remember Ronaldo Skeets Nehemiah was a hurdler. He was a decent. But a lot of guys who are super speedy guys and are all incredible athletes in track and field. There's one problem: catch the football. A lot of these guys are not good at football. They're good at running fast. So now we've changed it. Things are different. But to me, I know there's a lot of different things that they look at. But Rich Eisen running in underwear would be something I would watch this year. Other than that, I'm just going to wait for the results and watch the clips. You know what I mean?
Not me. I'm in on every ounce of it. I'm there. I'm counting reps. I've got
I have
my
no
cross-reference
idea what we're
sheets.
talking about anymore.
I
have no idea.
watch the underwear Olympics in my underwear. I act like I'm one of them. I
I
run
know
the
you
40
guys
when
got
they
around,
run
but
the
you watching
40.
the golf event tonight, the next golf foursome throwdown?
No, I didn't even
Showdown
know what was
who's in
happening.
it?
Who's in it?
Yeah, there's like 4 people. I know Rory's one of them. So there's 2 men and 2 women. It's going to be on TV tonight at 6:30 Eastern Time. Golf on Monday night.
All right. Well,
Yes,
look
sir.
forward to
yeah.
that. All right. We are just about out of time. Tony is coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks for participating in the show today. Thanks to Jason Bristol for joining us as well. And we'll continue our spring swing tomorrow. And Ordinary Calls is back tomorrow. Gentlemen, have a great afternoon. Tony's coming up next.